Archery World Records. Who can swim or run the fastest, jump the highest, endure the longest? There is not much that we won't compete over as humans. Some of the competitions or records we pursue are quite ridiculous and dangerous. Nevertheless, we are compelled to compete and to do better. Better than others and better than our former selves. This video delves into the many archery world records that have been set. We'll try to go in somewhat of a chronological order, starting with archery feats of the past and working our way towards the most recent ones. Enjoy. The Ancients. Archery World Records. Some archery world records of ancient times were in fact documented. Whether or not there was some validity to them is another matter. We of course cannot go back and ask anyone, as time travel has yet to be invented. There was of course no officially recognized global body that validated, verified, and kept records. There were no Guinness World Records to speak of in ancient times. For this reason, the ancient archery world records are more like amazing archery feats that may or may not be true. Also, some of the amazing archery feats of the ancient world were likely purely fictitious. Archery was a highly valued skill. Gods, goddesses, and mythical heroes were, of course, the most highly skilled. Mythical beings, in fact, make up the majority of archery world record holders of ancient times. Nevertheless, we will highlight some noteworthy examples. Archery exploits of the pharaohs. As we all know, Egyptian civilization is ancient. The ancient Egyptians were also very familiar with archery, having practiced the craft throughout the entirety of their civilization. Now, we should also be familiar with the idea that the ancient Egyptians did love themselves some monarchy. The civilization always prospered under strong centralized rule by a powerful pharaoh. Now, the leaders of nations in the ancient world were not like the spoiled, corrupt, bureaucratic, and largely incompetent politicians of today. Oh no. They had to protect their kingdoms by leading from the front of the army. They had to be competent soldiers and generals. In order to prove their skills in archery, pharaohs would put on an archery display. This involved shooting an arrow through a sheet of hammered copper. The act is documented to have been accomplished by several pharaohs. The Armont Stela, Pharaoh Thutmose III. When he shoots at a copper target, all wood is splintered like a papyrus reed. His Majesty offered an example thereof in the Temple of Amun, with a target of hammered copper of 3 digits in thickness. When he had shot his arrow there, he caused protrusion of 3 palms behind it, so as to cause the followers to pray for the proficiency of his arms in valor and strength. I am telling you what he did without deception and without lie, in front of his entire army, and there is no word of exaggeration therein. The Great Sphinx Stela of Amenhotep II at Giza. Entering his northern garden, he found erected for him 4 targets of Asiatic copper, of 1 palm in thickness, with a distance of 20 cubits between one post and the next. Then his Majesty appeared on the chariot like Mont in his might. He drew his bow, while holding 4 arrows together in his fist. Thus he rode northward, shooting at them, like Mont in his panoply, each arrow coming out at the back of its target, while he attacked the next post. It was a deed never yet done, never yet heard reported, shooting an arrow at a target of copper so that it came out of it and dropped to the ground. It should come as no surprise that the pharaohs of old held all the archery records. Demosthenes, archers, and the surrender of the Spartans. Demosthenes was an Athenian general known for his actions in the Peloponnesian War, fought between Athens and Sparta, 431 to 404 BC. After failed peace negotiations, several hundred hoplites, Spartan infantry, were stranded on the island of Sphacteria, which bears the battle's name. Demosthenes had landed on the island and quickly ordered his lightly armored archers to seek out the high ground and to start harassing the Spartans with arrow fire. The Spartans could not get close enough to the archers and retreated to the north of the island. With the Spartans pinned down, Demosthenes had originally planned on starving out the enemy. It became apparent, however, that the Athenians were unable to fully blockade the Spartan fortifications, and they were able to hold out much longer than expected. Demosthenes' co-commander, Common, then proceeded to flank the Spartans by traveling along the rocky and rough terrain of the shore. This path had been undefended, as the Spartans did not think a sufficient force could pass through this rough ground. Well, they were wrong. The Spartans ended up surrendering. Getting the proud Spartans to surrender was no easy feat. As many of our viewers may know from history, the Spartans rarely surrendered, many times choosing death or complete annihilation to surrender or capture. This use of archery in battle and the consequent surrender of this small Spartan force earns Demosthenes an ancient archery world record. Medieval times, archery world records. In terms of archery and its utility in hunting and warfare, not too much changed from ancient times going into the medieval era. Archery was still a highly prized skill, and archers were deployed on battlefields the world over. Before we go into modern archery world records, let's take a look at some of the archery feats accomplished and recorded from the medieval era. I'm your biggest fan, Nasu no Yoichi. Nasu no Yoichi, circa 1169 to circa 1232, was a legendary figure from war-torn medieval Japan. He was a samurai fighting for one of the largest and most powerful groups of the time, the Minamoto clan, in the so-called Genpei Wars. It was alleged that Nasu was an excellent archer, picking up the practice and excelling at it in early childhood. It was in fact an archery exploit that gained him fame and legendary status during and after his life. According to the Heike Monogatari, an epic account of the Genpei Wars, Nasu made quite the shot. During the Battle of Yashima, fought in 1185, the Taira placed a single fan atop the highest mast of one of their ships. They were taunting their enemy, urging the Minamoto warriors on the shore to shoot the fan. Nasu no Yoichi walked his horse into the water, and with the waves knocking his ride and himself about, not to mention the bobbing of the ship in the distance, managed to shoot down the fan with one shot. This surely frustrated and humbled the Taira. Sunken ships. Minamoto no Tamitomo. Minamoto no Tamitomo, 1139 to April 23, 1170, also known as Shinsei Hachiro Tamitomo, was another formidable and legendary figure from Japanese history. The story of his claim to an archer world record goes something like this. Tamitomo was, according to sources, a very large man, both in his physical size as well as his ego. It was recorded in several legends that one of his arms was about 4 inches longer than the other. This apparently allowed for enormous draw lengths. While being exiled onto an island, government administrators thought it would be appropriate for Tamitomo to pay some taxes. He couldn't just sit on his own personal island, not bother anyone, and be at peace. Oh no. You know how it is, government officials. A small fleet was commissioned to pay Mr. Tamitomo a visit to his little island. The samurai saw the ships approaching and decided to give a warning shot with one of his mighty Yumi bows. As the legend goes, he meant to shoot his arrow over the bows of the ships as a mere warning. Well, it did not go as planned. The arrow struck one of the closer vessels just below the waterline. The impact caused enough damage to cause the ship to take on water and quickly sink. Seeing that Tamitomo was a serious customer, the other ships took off and led him to his own devices. What he lacked in accuracy, He certainly made up for in raw power. English longbowmen. The longbowmen of the British Islands were known for their prowess with the bow. They also shot some heavy bows, specifically designed for warfare, war bows. In fact, some English longbows were discovered on board the Mary Rose, the flagship of King Henry VIII, most of which exceeded 100 pounds in draw weight. Some even approached 200 pounds. They were pulling some heavy bows indeed. The English longbowman gets a medieval archery world record for pulling some extremely heavy bows. The vast majority of people in modern times cannot pull much after 100 pounds. Here is Joe Gibbs, one of the last of the long line of English longbowmen. He can pull some historical weight longbows well in excess of 100 pounds. Flight archery world records. Flight archery's whole purpose is to see how far you can shoot an arrow. Of course, humans, being the competitive species, made this into a competition. It is unknown where exactly these competitions first arose, but it is very likely that it was on the open steppe. Archery was one of the most highly prized skills in life on the steppe. Large, flat, and open spaces made most of the terrain on the Eurasian plains ideal for this type of long-distance archery. Shooting farther requires a heavier bow, and a heavier bow requires a stronger archer to operate. Therefore, shooting the farthest usually means you are strong and fit. Flight archery became an obsession among the Turkish Ottomans. They designed extremely efficient bows as well as very small arrows and even special devices such as the siper, which allows for the arrow to be drawn past the bow arc. Turkish flight archery. As mentioned, the Ottoman Turks really took flight archery seriously. They established archery ranges, or Ahmedin, arrow fields, all over the country. There are large stone pillars to be found around Istanbul that commemorate the flight archery world records of the time. Shooting lanes, or menzil in Turkish, were defined by two stone pillars or columns. The first, typically a smaller stone, marked the shooting line. The second pillar, usually larger and elegantly carved, marked where the arrow landed. Other archers would come and try to establish a new flight archery world record. If a further shot was made and verified, they were entitled to erect a new monumental pillar. Modern flight archery world records. Flight archery competitions continue to this very day. The modern affair, operating under world archery and national rules, is held at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. The furthest recorded shot with any type of bow was 2,047 yards, 1,871.84 meters, by Harry Drake in 1983 using a fiberglass foot bow. The furthest with a handheld is 1,336 yards, or 1,222 meters, shot by Don Brown with an unlimited conventional flight bow in 1987. Olympic world records. Archery made its debut in the Olympic Games in 1900. The sport was featured in the Olympics again in 1904, 1908, and 1920. After 1920, archery was withdrawn from the Olympics, making its return over half a century later in 1972. Ever since '72, archery has been a feature of the Olympic Games. The most celebrated archer of the Olympics' early days is the Belgian Gerard Theodor Hubert van Innes, 24th of February 1866 to the 25th of November 1961. He participated in the 1900 Games, then 20 years later in 1920. He accumulated 6 gold medals and 3 silver. Modern, post-1972 Olympic archery world records. Featured here are some tables of the current Olympic archery world records for men and women's events. As you can see, Korea dominates Olympic archery these days. Guinness World Records. The Guinness World Records, known from its inception in 1955, until 1999, as the Guinness Book of World Records has become synonymous with the keeping of world records. The creation of Sir Hugh Beaver, the publication was co-founded by twin brothers Norris and Ross McWhirter in Fleet Street, London, in August 1955. Due to the huge popularity of the publication, the Guinness World Records became the authority for verifying and cataloging all types of world records. This, of course, includes archery. There are 130 world records cataloged under the search Archery on their website, guinnessworldrecords.com. We won't go over all of them here, but you are free to investigate for yourself. Cool picks. Guinness Archer World Records. Here are some select archery world records from the Guinness Book of World Records. Fastest moving target hit with an arrow. A recent Guinness Archery World Record was set on August 31st, 2022. The fastest moving target to be hit with an arrow. The object was a clay pigeon launched from a skeet shooting machine. It clocked in at 77.2 kilometers per hour, 48 miles per hour, and was shot successfully by James Jean, USA, on the set of Dude Perfect in Midlothian, Texas, USA. Most bottle caps were moved using a bow and arrow in 1 minute. This one is for the aspiring archery world record setters out there. Apparently, according to the Guinness World Record website, this one has yet to be accomplished and or set. Farthest arrow shot using feet. Here's one for the more flexible and foot-sensitive among us. Apparently, the farthest arrow shot using one's feet is 12.31 meters, 40 feet, and 4.64 inches. This does not seem like a very large distance at all, although it is quite an accomplishment to shoot a bow in this manner, regardless of the distance. It seems like we could go much further. This particular record was set by Brittany Walsh, USA, at Creston School in Portland, Oregon, USA, on the 31st of March, 2018. Some archery world records from the Guinness Book of World Records.com. Largest archery tournament. The largest archery tournament consisted of 9,426 participants and was achieved by the National Archery in Schools Program, USA, at the Kentucky State Fair in Louisville, Kentucky, USA, from the 9th to 11th of May 2013. The farthest archery hit, male, is 330 meters, 1,083 feet, and it was achieved by Tyler Toney of USA on the set of Dude Perfect in Sadler, Texas, USA, on the 2nd of September 2022. Honorable mentions. Lars Anderson, number of arrows through a keyhole. On the 1st of June 2022, Mr. Lars Anderson, a Danish traditional archer, managed to pull off quite the feat of instinctive archery accuracy. He was able to put 7 arrows through a keyhole in rapid succession. We could not find any reference to the distance, but gauged by this video evidence, it is roughly 7 meters or so. József Mónus. József Mónus of Hungary usually never fails to impress with his archery prowess. His archery style is exciting as he specializes in traditional Asiatic bows, typically Magyar. These bows are heavy, as they can well exceed 100 pounds in draw weight. Utilizing these high-end draw weights, József Mónus has achieved many impressive archery world records. Kassai Lajos, born the 16th of September 1960, is a Hungarian equestrian archer and teacher who is renowned worldwide for his archery skill and pioneering efforts in the sport of mounted archery. Kassai has also set and held several archery world records, specifically pertaining to mounted archery. Guinness World Records of Lajos Kossuth. He set 5 Guinness World Records. 1998, riding 12 horses, shot more than 1,000 targeted shots in 286 competition runs during 12 hours of continuous equestrian archery. His average point per standard competition was 133 points. 2002, again riding 12 horses during 12 hours of continuous equestrian archery. He managed to achieve a total score of 7,126.05 with nearly 3,000 shots in 323 competition runs, breaking his previous record. 2006, riding 12 horses, Kossuth Lajos did equestrian archery continuously for 24 hours during 661 competition runs. He achieved a total score of 15,596.43 points with 5,412 shots. His average points per standard competition, 9 runs, was 212.35. 2009. In December, he set his 4th record in Budapest Sports Arena. He shot 12 pieces of 30-centimeter diameter flying discs thrown by his students from the back of a galloping horse in 17.8 seconds. 2011, in December, he shot 14 discs under 19.85 seconds. Thank you for watching. Take care and God bless.